Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Nice to meet you.
Nice
Nice
to
to meet
see you
you
all
too.
here. So, let's see. So before we get started, can I ask everyone who's joining to please mute your microphones for now? We'll have a chance to turn them on towards the end of the program, but please do mute your microphones now. And you may want to change your name if you're at all concerned about security. You may want to change your name to something. But to get started, my real name is Marcy Carroll. I work at the U.S. Embassy in Yangon, and I work in the public affairs section. And I am responsible for American Center Yangon and Jefferson Center Mandalay, and also some spaces in Thailand as well. So I'm here today with my colleague, Sueyu Nui, the American Center Yangon librarian. Sueyu over there says ACY programming, and also our AV tech as well. And so what we are talking about here today is Google Scholar. And this is a relatively small group. So I guess I'd like to ask in the, if those of you in the chat group, if you could let me know if you have already used Google Scholar. So if you have used Google Scholar in the past, please type in yes in the chat box so we get a sense of how many people are familiar with using Google Scholar. So we have one yes. Anyone else? 1, 2, 3, 4. No's. Let's see. We're seeing a lot. I'm seeing a lot of yeses. Okay. No no's, huh? Almost like half and half, maybe. Okay.
I saw 6.
That's great.
6,
Interesting.
Yes. 7.
My colleague is much better at math than I am. Okay, well, apologies if this is a review, or I guess I should say it will be a review probably for those of you who have already used Google Scholar, but perhaps there's some little tips or tricks that might be a little bit different than the way you use it. And for those of you who have not used it before, I hope you find this to be useful. So what I'm going to do is start by sharing my screen, of course. Let's see, and I'm going to start with a PowerPoint. And somehow, let's see, slideshow from the beginning. Okay, so I'm just going to show a few slides before we get started, and then I'll move to a demonstration and we'll kind of talk through using it. If at any time you have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box. My colleague will be tracking those questions, and then we'll have a chance at the end where you can answer, open your mics and ask any questions or have comments in either English or Burmese. So I want to start by just asking, why use Google Scholar? What's the advantage of using Google Scholar over Google? And the reason why you would want to use Google Scholar is when you are trying to find scholarly resources quickly, and that is free scholarly resources, and you want to find them quickly. So it is very different than regular Google. The advantages of using Google Scholar. So what you see here on the slide are sort of two categories. For the searchers, which most of us are searchers, right? We're using Google Scholar to find things. And for us, the advantages of using Google Scholar over, say, for example, a commercial academic database is that this is a very familiar search engine, right? We've all probably used Google at some point for something. You know, we know that single search box kind of way of searching. Another advantage is that this is a way for you to find free versions of academic or peer-reviewed sources, right? Most often, those kinds of resources are not free, but if you find them on Google Scholar, they are free. And then,
excuse me.
Yes?
So your slide is not, you are not studying the slide.
Oh, really? It didn't move?
Yeah.
Oh.
We saw on the Google Scholar page,
Is it still just on that? Did it move?
Yes, still on that Google Scholar, and the presentation is not started yet,
All right, I'm going to start over again.
Yeah.
End sharing. Start over.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
Let's see. Share screen. And maybe should I share the whole desktop maybe? No, how about this? Does that work?
Now start screen sharing. Yeah, that's what. Yeah.
On advantages?
Yeah. Advantages slides. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Sorry, thank you. So I was listing some of the advantages for searchers of using Google Scholar, the familiar search engine, free versions of academic resources, and then the third bullet is that there are also some peer-reviewed content that you'll find on Google Scholar that it may be a little bit more unusual that you wouldn't find in other sources. And then for the scholar, if you are writing and publishing academic research, this is a way for you to first disseminate your research, right? This is a way to get it out there in the research world. It's also a way for you to collaborate with other researchers. So you'll see when we get into the system that you can find other researchers and collaborate with them right there within Google Scholar. And finally, it's a way to use metrics to identify journals for publishing. That can be useful for searchers as well, but basically it's a way to see which journals get the most attention and what might be a good place for you to get your research out there. Where might you want to publish? Let's see if it moves forward now. Did the slide move to disadvantages?
Yes.
Great. So disadvantages, I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on these because I think these are pretty much, these disadvantages are pretty much overridden in my mind by the advantages. But these may be some challenges that some people find with using Google Scholar. One is that there's no way to kind of filter out the open access materials. If you're not interested in open access material, you can't filter that out. There are some predatory journals and pseudoscience journals out there, but in all honesty, that has been greatly reduced over the last 5-10 years, something like that. But there are some, and what that means is these are journals that rather than being, they're for profit. So they actually go out and try to encourage others, they pay, right, to come and publish in their journals. Another kind of challenge, I guess, rather than a disadvantage, is that you may see multiple versions of the same article, right? There'll be one that is like a preprint version, another one that will have the graphics, but and the one that's only in, and another that does not have the graphics. So sometimes people get frustrated by it, but it's, I think it's quite manageable. That there are more natural sciences over social sciences and the humanities. That may be the case, but there's still a great deal. It is cross-disciplinary, so multiple fields are covered. And then finally, it says here, better at finding a specific article versus a literature review on a specific topic. And that is to say that if you are doing a literature review, you really cannot rely solely Google Scholar. You need to use some of the academic databases as well to ensure that you're being truly comprehensive. Okay, so I'm going to end this slideshow now and let's do some searching so you can see what we're talking about here. And I'm going to go back here and here. Here. So in order to talk about Google Scholar, hopefully you see on the screen now just a standard Google search box, right? So what I want to do is run a search first in regular Google and then in Google Scholar so you can see the difference. So the search I want to do as an example here is cyberbullying. Okay. So if I type in cyberbullying, this is what you would see. On a standard Google search, right? So over here you have this Wikipedia entry, right? This is the knowledge panel, and it's giving you a place where you can get a very quick sort of encyclopedia description of what cyberbullying is all about, right? It goes down here, it has these, people asked. So these are questions that you can follow as a path to finding more research about it. But if you look at the sources for where some of these entries are coming. You'll see here, cyberbullying, what is it and how to stop it, from UNICEF. So this is .org organization, right? Here's the Wikipedia entry, right? Another .org entry, .org. Here's a .com, right? The effects cyberbullying on children from some verywellfamily.com. There are probably also, they're not showing up here, but if we went down, we would likely find some .gov. Here's something from ED, educational organization. Actually, it looks from Merriam-Webster Dictionary. That's interesting. But here's something from .gov AU, so from Australia, about cyberbullying from the government in Australia. So a real wide variety, different types of resources that are out there. But Google Scholar is different. So what I want to do is go to Google Scholar. A couple ways that you might do that. What you might do when you're looking for some of the many Google sites and features that are out there is to go to this, it's called a waffle over here. So this waffle that has the 3x3, nine circles or dots here, and you click on it and you can see a lot of other Google apps out there, right? So you can go quickly to Google Maps, Google Play, Gmail, your calendar, Google Meet, Google Photos. You see all these various Google apps and sites that are out there, Google Earth, Google Hangouts, Google Docs, and you're scrolling through here and you're seeing Google Travel, seeing a whole bunch of things, but you do not see Google Scholar, unfortunately. It used to be listed here on the front page. I don't know why it no longer is, but it's not on their first page of apps. I would not recommend going to this more from Google because it will take you off to their website and you will see they have really an astounding number of apps and products and features and things that are out there either in full form or many that are in beta. So instead of that, and you're obviously, these are some fun things out here to explore when you have time. So I don't see here. And so the way I would find it is the way I find most things, which is by Googling it, right? So when you can't find something, Google it. So I'm going to Google Scholar. And you'll see right away, well, past the ad, the first thing that comes up here is an ad. Funny. Sorry. And you'll see here that the second thing is Google Scholar. And here at the top is the URL. So if you remember, the URL is scholar.google.com. You could go there direct. If you don't remember, you just Google Scholar and it would take you here. Okay, so now here we are. We're on Google Scholar. And you can see that the front page is pretty similar, right? It's a single search box, which is what we are all familiar with, single search box searching. I'm going to put in the same term, cyberbullying, and look at the results here. So one of the things you might notice is that it's pretty much a straight list of entries here, right? You don't have in the regular Google at the top along the horizontal line, you would have a lot of operators and filter. So you would have a filter for images, a filter for videos and graphics and maps and all the other types of filters that you can do. And you also do not have any, I don't know why my internet is unstable, it's unfortunate. There is no encyclopedia entry over here on the right either. So what you have are pretty much a straight list of articles. So let's say you're at the beginning of your research on cyberbullying and you want to do something on that topic, but you're not quite sure what aspect of cyberbullying you want to approach in your research. And so you're kind of scrolling through here. That's of interest. And the first thing I want to point out that's extremely important when using Google Scholar is. Let's look at one article. Let's look at this one. So the cyberbullying, the challenge to define. Let's say you see this article and you think, or this headline, and you think, okay, that might be a good place to start. I want to define what is cyberbullying. So you click on that headline, which is the way you would normally access any entry on a Google site, right? And you would be led to the source. So as we look here, we see, okay, this is cyberbullying, the challenge to define. Here's the abstract, and you're looking at it and you're going, okay, where's the article? Where's the article? And here it says, okay, view article. And we don't want this ad. View article, and you want to view the full text. I wonder if this is going to work. Nope, it doesn't. Good. I didn't want it to work and it doesn't. So what you see comes up, access content. To read the full text, please use one of the options below to sign in or purchase access, right? So it wants you to pay $59 to access this article, or else if you have a login for this particular site. But we don't have a login for the site and we don't want to pay $59. So I'm going to go back to the site. So the story is that article, there is no other way to get that article from the version of the way that we're accessing Google Scholar. This article is not available for free. What you want to see instead is, let's go to this one right here, cyberbullying, an overrated phenomena. Notice how on the right-hand side, you'll see these PDF icons or URLs, and it says PDF ResearchGate. Click over here on the right on this PDF, and voila, here is your 19-page article. The full article is right here. So I would say 99.9% of the time when you're doing research, you want the full article. And so what you can do right now, you see this in front of you, you could go ahead and download it right here, right? If you wanted to do that, I could download it to my hard drive. I'm not going to do it on my computer. I'm going to hit cancel, but I could download that to my hard drive. I could print it, any of the normal thing you would do with an article. So if we go back to where we were, what I want to point out, and this is, remember nothing else about Google Scholar, this is the piece to remember. And that is that for all the articles you see on any of these pages, you are really truly only interested in those that have one of these PDF URLs over here on the right-hand side. And so these will always take you to a full text version of the article. So for example, for this one we just looked at, this one from cyberbullying and overrated phenomena, if we clicked on the headline, I will tell you that sometimes you can get to the full text and sometimes you can't. That's why I recommend always clicking over the hand side where you have those PDF URLs. So when you click on the headline, you're taken to the page of the publisher typically. Sometimes it's a university. Typically it will take you to the publisher. And then sometimes there is and sometimes there is not a direct link to the article. It looks like here there is a link here where you could get that article by going to full article. No, actually, no. Look at this. It wants me to pay if I do it this. So right here, you can see that it's $45 for this article if I do it this way, right? If I go back and click over here, I get it for free. So over here on the right-hand side, why does that happen, or how does this happen? I will tell you that if you are at a large university in other country, or in the United States, for example, most universities, some public libraries, but would do it too. and in other countries as well, what they do is the libraries, their digital subscriptions to Google Scholar. So for example, you were at, Princeton or something like that, and you tried to get this article that we were not able to get, this would probably link you to their digital subscription. It looks like it's for a journal called Cyber Psychology, Behavior, and Social Networking, right? So if they have a subscription, if the library has a subscription to that journal, it would go right to it. But we're looking at the free version. So again, only look at these articles that have items on the left, or on the right, sorry. Okay, so here we are, we're at the beginning of our research, we've put in cyberbullying, and now we're looking at our sources to see what it is that we want to do. And we're scrolling down here, and one of the things I'm noticing when I'm looking at these, I'm looking at, first and foremost, not so much the title line, but that second line in green, right? So this second line where it shows, these are the authors, right? Authors, the name of the journal, and the year. And as I'm going through here, I'm seeing there's quite a few old things in here, right? This is from 2006, 2013, 2008. I want current stuff. So over here on the left-hand side, these are the very few filters that are available in Google Scholar. There are not a lot, but these are the most important because it's a much smaller set of resources, right? You're not looking at the millions of web pages that a regular Google search is indexing. What you're looking at is a smaller subset of scholarly journal articles only. So let's just choose since 2020. And now you can see that now looking at that second line, and we're seeing only things from 2020 or 2021. And as I'm scrolling through here, I'm seeing these are all 2020. So we could probably, even if we, let's leave it at 2020. Okay. So the next, so the green line, as I pointed out, this green line is what I'm looking at when I'm scrolling through these articles, right? I want to be sure they're all relatively current, if that's my one of my criteria for what's interesting. And then I'm looking at the headlines because I haven't narrowed my topic yet, right? So, do I want to look at, cyberbullying and Twitter? Or do I want to look at, what is this? Being a cyber victim and a cyberbullying bully? Or something about cyberbullying victimization at work. Maybe you want to look at cyberbullying in the workplace, right? How serious games to prevent and detect bullying and cyberbullying. That could be super interesting, right? What else looks interesting? There's something about cyberbullying university students. That could be interesting, or young children, right? Mental health, best practices for prevention. These are all sort of ideas that might lead you to the type of research that you want to use. And of course, not to forget that at the bottom, we can always go to the next page. We don't have to be limited by the first of results. So let's see what else we get. Okay. We don't want this about Chinese examples. Quite a few adolescents. You could probably, family, friends, and teachers, different ways to narrow the topic. Longitudinal studies. Okay, I'm going to go back to page 1 and start from there because we're beginning our research. And I'm going to just choose one of these articles that looks interesting. I'm going to choose, this concept of using games to prevent and detecting and cyberbullying is an interesting concept. So let's say we're interested in this topic. So I'm looking, as I said, at this green line, right, that shows the authors and the title, and the title of the journal rather, and the date. The other thing you'll notice about all of the Google Scholar entries that's very different from regular Google is that below this very short abstract, there's also a blue line right here that is very different from anything you see in regular Google. So the first thing you see here is a star. And so if you are going through a list of articles, one approach to doing your research is to sort of mark those that you're interested in and go back to them later. So that's what this star will do. So if I click on that star, you'll see very quickly down here at the lower left, it said save to your library. Now that's gone away, but if I scroll back up to the top, you'll notice that there is a button here on the right, My Library. So that I am currently, you can see here by my photo up there, I'm currently logged into my Google account. If you were not logged into your Google account and you clicked on My Library, it would ask you to log into your Google account. And you do, that is one thing about Google Scholar, using Google Scholar, is you have to have a Google account, a Gmail or a Google account of some kind. There is no way around that. So here I'm in something called My Library, and you can see it says that over here on the left, right? My Library. So it put that article that I clicked on about cyberbullying, it's now added that to my library. And you can see that there are several other articles that I've had in here that are, some of these I'm not interested in anymore, and so I would get rid of them. But this is a way for you to keep all your articles of interest in one place, right? So you can go back and find them more easily. So that is probably the way I would do it. I'm going to go back to the page we're on. Is this where we were? Yes. And so you can see here's the article I starred. Let's say I'm also interested in this about university students. I want to follow something about university students. I'm going to star that one. What else is of interest? The mental health, yes, I probably should have clicked on that one because that is of interest. Young adolescents, machine learning approach. So this kind of goes with gaming, right? And so as I'm reading these, I'm kind of trying to get an idea of what I want to study about cyberbullying. I'm going to go back to this same page then and show you. So we looked at on this. This is the article we were looking at. So I've highlighted it. I put it in my library with the star. Next little icon you see are the quotation marks. So you'll see if you hover over that, it says cite, C-I-T-E. So that's for citation. So if I click on that, what comes up are the citations for that article in a variety of different citation formats. So it depends on which citation format you're using, what discipline you're studying in. I'm most familiar with APA. So APA style is used by it's used by library science field. I have a master's in library science. They use APA. It's also used by business, and I have a master's in business administration. They also use APA style, but the style, so most of the social sciences will use APA style. Some of the humanities might use MLA, and you will use whichever style you're most familiar with or whichever style your professor requires, or whatever style the manuscript, the publisher that you're working with, they will have a specific style that they will require. So if this were me, I would want to do it all at once, and I would just do a Control-C, right? And then I'd open a Word document, and I would right away keep a running tab. I would just Control-V, copy this, right? Oops, and go on to the next one, because I would want to keep that all in the same place and not have to go back to it. But that's also another good reason why you might want to keep those articles in your library. The next icon you see going over here is cited by 11. So what that's telling you, if you click on that, it's telling you that 11 other authors or articles quoted this article. So that's typically a good sign that it's of value. You know, it tells you that that research was of interest or value to 11 others. And this is a fairly current, right, a 2020 article, so a fairly current article that's being quoted and used by others. What that also means is that this will lead you to other research, other articles that might be of interest, right? So it looks like, for example, these tend to be focused on like the game playing aspect. So video game playing, a VR enhanced simulator game. So it really pulled up that game term that we had with cyberbullying, right? And so this is really focusing on that aspect of it. So if that's the aspect that you're interested in, this search will be very, these citations would be very useful to you. Go back. So that's cited by, right? The next icon you see here, related articles. I'll be honest, I'm going to pull that up and let's see how it goes. I typically do not find the related articles button to be very useful, but especially if you're not finding what's of interest, the related articles can be useful for that. I guess because to me, it's not always very clear what Google considers to be a related article. But here, you know, like training teachers to identify and refer at-risk students through computer simulation. Not really what I had in mind, right? I'm interested in the cyberbullying aspect of it. But this, you know, adaptive game for reducing aggressive behavior, yeah, that might be of interest. But you'll notice too that, you know, some of these are available free and some are not. So always something to keep in mind. So those are the related articles, another way to kind of grow your research. You'll often hear the expression when you're doing research. In English, we talk about purling, which means, you know, you're going out and out and out and out, right? Like this. So you start with your, you know, your narrow and you get broader and broader and get to other topics, you know, or else onions, right? So onions means you're starting up here and you're getting smaller and smaller to narrow down to exactly what you're looking for. So pearls and onions. So that's the star, the citation, cited by, related articles. This last one, I find zeros for this, but maybe there's a time when you would need this. If you clicked on this all 5 versions, this is where you'll get to what I mentioned in the beginning as a kind of a challenge or disadvantage for some. And that is these are exactly what it says. You can get the same article from different sources, you know, so like here it was published in DSpace, you know, here it was published by researchgate.net, by Elsevier, by whatever that is. Oh, it's their university site, UCM. I'm not sure which university that is. Or here again, it's from Elsevier. But if you didn't like the way the version that you had, maybe it didn't print out the right or something, this would be another version that you could try here. So you'll see that that line in blue here with the My Library, the citation, cited by, related articles, versions, that's on all of the articles in here. So a very useful way to help you expand your research. The other way, you'll notice here, this is another feature in Google Scholar that doesn't always show up, but often does, this related search. So here it's giving us some additional ideas for what we might want to use with our cyberbullying search. Are any of these of interest to me? I don't know, I mean, causes and effects maybe, but that's pretty general, to be honest. But that, you know, it might be a way for you to narrow or grow your research. I'm going to stick with that same article again and show you another feature of Google Scholar. So we talked about this line in green, right? That's under the title of every article. You'll notice that Some of the authors that are listed as you look through here, some of the authors are underlined and some are not. So let's, if you notice, the ones that are underlined are hyperlinked. So if we go to this first author here, click on that hyperlink, we are now taken to, this is the scholar profile. So this is the scholar profile for Antonio Calvo Morata from Universidad Complutense de Madrid. So this is his scholarly profile. And what it's linking here, these in blue, these are the topics or subjects or disciplines, areas of research that he's involved in: serious games, learning analytics, and cyberbullying. And so let's say you are you're a psychology major, and cyberbullying is of great interest to you. Short-term, medium-term, long-term, it's a subject that's really important to you. Then I would highly recommend that you actually follow this author, right? So, and when you follow an author, you select exactly what you want. I want to see new articles by this author. I want to see new citations to this author. So if somebody else writes an article but cites this guy's work, I want to see that article too. And maybe I want to see any new articles related to this guy's research. So that's going to be the broadest possible scenario, right? Anybody that's writing about these serious games, learning analytics, and cyberbullying. But yes, I want to get all of those. And I've got my email address in here. I click done. Yep. And you'll see down here at the bottom, alerts created, list my alerts. And you think, where is that? And you go over here. So this over here, these, we talked about how those 9 dots or 9 circles that you'll see in different places, you have it here as well. Those are called waffles. And these lines are called sandwiches or hamburgers, sorry. So we go to this hamburger here, these 3 lines, and go to alerts, because we just created an alert and now we want to see it. So now you'll see the alerts so here's the one. Oh, it's got something even more current than what I just set up. So here's the one I just set up, this Antonio Calvo Morata, right? And it's going to do new citations, new articles, right? All of these things. It's going to show up to 10 results is the default. And what it will do is every day, probably every day with a broad search like that, I would get an email with a list of those articles, and I could choose to either click on those articles or delete the email, whatever I might want to do. I'm going to go ahead and cancel some of these, right? Because I don't need all of it. And it's very easy to do, to add or cancel alerts. So if you find that it's more than you want, you can go in and cancel those. I'm canceling these. But I will tell you that I do use this quite a bit. So this media literacy, fake news, whatever, this first search that you see here, that's one that I've had for some time, and I do follow it. I get an email, not every day. This is a little bit narrower search terms, but I get an email maybe 3 times a week. I get an email with a couple articles, and I find it really valuable. Even if I don't go off and read the full articles, I enjoy seeing those, what kind of research is happening in that field, and I find it very useful. So this is a great way to keep current on a topic. Let's go back to where we were. That's creating an alert, right? And it's creating an alert based on the scholar profile. So here's this guy again that we were looking at. Now you can see it says following, so we're following him. And listed here are other journal articles that he has published, and they are not in, as you notice the dates here. Let's see if we can see the dates, like 2017, 1999. Well, we don't know. That's 2019. Sorry, over here. That's the volume. 2018. Right. These are not in chronological order. These are in order of the number of times that the article has been cited. So you would imagine that an older article, if it's sort of timeless, is going to be cited the most amount of times, right? Because it's been out there longer and more people have the opportunity to cite that article. But also it's articles that are more valued, that have more to add to that particular body of research, are going to be cited more often. So you can see that this one, even though it's a couple years old, applications of data science to game learning analytics data, a systematic literature review. So I can tell you that if you have literature review in there, that's going to be of great interest to a lot of people that would be working on related fields. So if you were doing something on gaming or cyberbullying or a lot of other topics, this literature review would probably be of great interest to you, even if it is 2 years old. But here you can get a sense of the type of work, type of research that he does. And he looks to be pretty well published, right? Because he's got quite a few articles from the last couple years even. So this is one way to follow a scholar. So if you are a scholar yourself and you want to get something published, we can talk about that later if there's any one that's in that situation. I'm going to go back, try and get out of this to go back to our search again. So we looked at then, an author that was underlined, right? And this is a great way to, as I mentioned, it's a great way to stay current with researchers in your area of interest, as well as to find articles in that field. A couple other things I want to point out. We looked at my library. My profile shows up only because I do have a scholar profile, because I was for a short time at a university. My profile is very small, but I will tell you, and actually this goes to the point of how to get your research out, that to be listed in Google Scholar to get your research published, you do have to have an email address that can be verified as an educational institution. So if you are an independent researcher and your work is only, based on your, gmail.com or hotmail.com address, you will not be able to get your research published. You do need to be associated with a verifiable institution that has a .edu kind of an email address. The other thing to point out over here on the left-hand side, at the beginning, I mentioned about how these are the few types of filters that are available in Google Scholar. You'll notice here that there is also this include citations, include patents. Typically, I don't think you need to worry about that, because there aren't that many patents, and depending upon the topic that you're searching for, I don't think you'll find a patent for anything in cyberbullying that I can think of, but you generally don't need to worry about these. They sort of fall out on their own. But I do want to point out this create alert. So we looked at how to create an alert based on the scholar, right? So you find a scholar, here's another guy, or here's this, that one's not, how about this? Here's another, R. Lozano Blasco, right? Here's another person from the University of Zaragoza. Wow, a lot of the Spaniards are publishing in this for some reason. So here you can see another scholar. And so this is the way we would follow if we wanted to follow this scholar. But you can also create an alert to follow a topic. So so let's say we were going through this research and we decided on a focus, cyberbullying and university students and what else? Crime, maybe something we want to see a relationship to crime. You see, we still have, according to this, 4,670 results. So still quite a bit out there. And let's say we look through these results. The case study. Here's another one. And they talk about religion. That might be another aspect of cyberbullying that you could look at. But let's say this is what you decide is really your area of interest, is how cyberbullying as a crime and involving university students. And so you could create an alert right here. And then you'll see here that it actually puts this is an alert based on a topic. So this would be similar to the alert you saw that I have about media literacy that's in my alert box. And then the hamburger over here, the lines. If we look at that again, I'm going to point out one last thing. Because I mentioned how you don't have a lot of, you can't filter by, videos or graphics or images or anything like that. But there is an advanced search box. And you'll see when you see this advanced search screen in Google Scholar, it's this one little box right here, versus if you've tried that in regular Google, it's a big, long, it's more than one screen, right? You can, search by top level domain, if you want just .coms or just .gov or .edu, whatever. There just aren't that many options within Google Scholar because it's more narrow. But there are some options here for narrowing your search. Let's say you wanted it to only say, exact phrase, University of Texas, let's say. And you wanted to be sure that it included at least one word, at least felony. You want it to be a felony crime, right? So you could do all kinds of things like that here in the advanced search box if you wanted. You can also do this searching by authors and publishers and journals, but I will tell you that these are a little tricky because you have to have it exactly the way they are published. So you'll notice here that the authors are often just first initials, right? So if you don't know, like this is PJ Hayes, well, is it PJ Hayes or just P or just J? It's pretty tricky. And if you don't have it exactly right, you won't get it. Or J Biochem, instead of Journal of Bio, I don't know if it's biological chemistry. I'm not a biologist or a chemist. I'm not sure what that journal is, but you have to have exactly the way it's written. So I find it a little tricky. But if you prefer using, well, let's run this search and see if anything comes up. It's pretty specific, wasn't it? 15 results for, University of Texas and felony and cyberbullying and excuse me, there really are some articles about that. But law and ethics, that's an idea. Juvenile delinquency, right? These are all some options where you might want to take your research. I'm going to go back to get out of that, and I'm back at the main screen. One final thing before we open it up for questions, and that is metrics. So metrics is where, click on that. This is giving you metrics of publications. So when you do it generally across all the publications that are included in Google Scholar, it's ranking, that's where it says top publications. So it tells you here, top cited publications over the last 5 years. And it's you can read the details about how they do this. But you'll notice as you look down the list that, these first, almost all of these, right? They're all science, right? Nature, New England Journal of Medicine, Science, The Lancet, IEEE, Advanced Materials. These are all science journals. And that's typical, to be honest, that by the way research happens in science fields, that they're going to be cited more often. But let's say you are not a scientist, you're not publishing. Let's say you are you're getting your MBA and you want to go on to get a PhD in business or marketing or something. If you click on business, economics, and management. Now you can see the top journals in that category. So if you are writing an article and you want to get it published, what this will tell you is these would be the top journals where your article would get the most, the most bang for its buck, have the most visibility, have the most followers. So you would want to get it published in American Economic Review if possible, right? What this will also tell you too, though, is that if you were doing research in that field, that you would want to try to be sure to include research that comes from some of these resources. So if you were doing anything on, business ethics, for example, you would want to be sure to include the Journal of Business Ethics. It has a high index rating here. So there are other more sophisticated things you can do with these metrics if you're a scholar and you need to show metrics for your employer, your university, or wherever you're publishing. But for those of us who are researchers or that are just searching, that is probably not an overriding need. I'm going to go back to our main page here, right? So this was our very first page when we were looking at cyberbullying and what we were able to find with doing a general search. And I'm going to stop talking for a while here and see if there's anything, Sway Yu, that you can tell me that would be, of use or interest, if there are any questions.
Marcy, so
Yep.
I forgot to mention about the survey. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I will
Please
put
do.
in the chat box. Yeah. And
Okay.
Would you like to explain or shall I? Yeah.
You can explain and put it
Yeah.
in the chat box, please.
Yeah. Thank you. So
Thank you.
ဒီနေ့ကျမတို့ဒီ research case session ကလေကျမတို့အမြဲတမ်းရင်ပေါ့နော်ဒီ covid တွေဖြစ်ခင်နေကျမတို့ library မှာအမြဲလုပ်တယ်ပေါ့နော်အခု covid နောက်ပိုင်းကာလမှာကျတော့ကျမတို့ online ကလုပ်တာပေါ့နော်လုပ်တယ်ဆိုတော့အခုဒီຢာလေးဒီ session နဲ့ပတ်သက်ပြီးတော့ကျမတို့က survey လေးပေါ့နော် survey ကအရင်အများကြီးတော့မဟုတ်ပါဘူး just click ပဲမေးခွန်းကလည်း3-4ခုပဲရှိတယ်ပေါ့နော်အဲ့ဒါလေးတော့ကျေးဇူးပြုပြီးတော့ဖြေပေးပါအောင်အမှန်တော့ခုနက session မှာကျမလည်းဆရာမတူတိုင်းနားထောင်နေမျောသွားတော့လေတကယ်တော့ဒီ session အလယ်လောက်မှာကျမဒီ survey form လေးကိုဒီစူးစမ်းတယ်မှာဒီ chat ထဲမှာထည့်ပေးရမှာပေါ့နော်ဒီ chat ထဲကအခုကျမပြေးလိုက်တဲ့ဒီ form လေးကို just click လုပ်လိုက်ရုံပါပဲလုပ်လိုက်ပြီးတော့ဒီဟာလေးကိုဖြည့်ပေးပါအောင်ဒါမှကျမတို့ကဒီ research case session နဲ့ပတ်သက်ပြီးတော့ဘယ်လိုတွေပို့ပြီးတော့ကိုယ့်ဘက်ကလောက်ရမလဲဗာလေးလေနောက်ပြီးတော့ကျမတို့ရဲ့ audience ကဘယ်လိုလဲဆိုတာလည်းသိချင်လို့ပါပေါ့နော်ကျေးဇူးတင်ပါတယ် Marcy
Thank you, Sway Yu.
မေးခွန်းတွေမေးချင်တာရင်မေးလို့ရပါတယ်နော် sorry Marcy ဆိုတော့လေဒီထဲမှာ microphone ဖွင့်ပြီးမေးလို့လည်းရတယ်ဒါမှမဟုတ် chat ထဲကနေတော့မေးချင်လည်းမေးလို့ရတယ်เนาะဗမာလိုပဲဖြစ်ဖြစ်အင်္ဂလိပ်လိုပဲဖြစ်ဖြစ်ပုံမှန်လေးမေးလို့ရပါတယ်
And I apologize for lecturing and versus interactive. It's hard sometimes on these systems, virtual sessions. But if there's a particular topic that you've tried and it hasn't worked, or you have other questions, because I know some of you have already used Google Scholar. So if you have particular questions, now is the time.
Yeah, we have a
No? Okay.
Hello, Marcy.
So again,
yeah.
Firstly, I would like to talk you. I'm really thanks and really appreciate you for giving me, all of us the knowledge about concerning about using Google Scholar. Actually, now I'm a person who are enthusiastic to attend PhD degree. That's why I would like to ask you one question, Marcy. Yes, all of us usually use Google Scholar for finding articles or PDF file or something like that. So besides for finding these articles, and then what things can we do more with the Google Scholar? Yes, that's the questions.
What more can you do with it?
Yes.
I mean, I think it's important if you're doing research. This is an important an important piece of doing research. So if I were doing research on the topic of cyberbullying, either for writing an article or for a class, you know, an academic class, or if I were doing it for if I were doing a presentation, for example, let's say I wanted to do a presentation at a conference or to a professional organization, or those are probably the primary reasons, but it can also be useful for a particular topic. So if that's a topic that's of interest to you, cyberbullying, for example, you're a parent and you want to get a better understanding of how to you know, you're looking for different best practices on how to manage cyberbullying. I would probably start with a regular Google search because it's going to give you more sort of practical, you're going to find sources, typically find more sources of practical advice, but you may want some more, you know, research-based kinds of discussions as well, right? And so this would be a place to turn for something like that. It's also, you know, if you're interested in, you know, for all of us, we talk about lifelong learning, right? I think this is part of lifelong learning. I'm no longer a student in formal education in anywhere, and yet I pull research articles from Google Scholar because I'm interested in those topics, right? I'm interested in media literacy. I'm interested in how people stay informed, how they evaluate the things that they read, how they evaluate information that's thrown at them. That's just of interest to me. And so I think an academic perspective kind of rounds out that understanding, that opinion beyond what you may also find in the news and other sources.
Yes,
I'm not sure if that's what you were asking.
Yes, Marcy. I have another questions. Before I note using Google Scholar, we only used how shall I say, Wikipedia. Yeah, I think we were in master student. Yes, actually, it's no longer I note these Google Scholars. So yes, may I ask you one question? Which one is more? Yes, which one is better, Wikipedia and the Google Scholars? Because I think that these two, yes, these two are really useful for finding or searching new articles and PDF files or some things like this. That's why I would like to ask you this.
So Wikipedia is like a general interest encyclopedia, right? And Wikipedia would never be an acceptable source in an academic setting, right? So you would not list, you never use the word never, you would not typically list Wikipedia as a source in an academic research, whether it's at the undergraduate level or the graduate level. Typically, but Wikipedia is great. I love it. Right? It's great for a starting point for understanding a topic. So if someone said to me something about cyberbullying, right, and I'd never heard that and I wasn't sure what it was, I would do exactly what I did at the beginning here is I would type that term into regular Google. I would look at that Wikipedia entry. I'd pull up that Wikipedia entry and I'd read it. And then I would go, oh, yeah. Now I get it. Now I understand, right? Now I know what we're talking about. I might get some ideas, I might get some references in there, but I would always, you know, I would always go to Google Scholar as well if I were doing research. I'm not sure if that, yeah.
And then Marcy?
You?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Marcy, for your answers.
And then one thing is that, yeah, so our American Center, Yangon and Jefferson, mainly we provide the eLibrary USA database for finding the articles, scholarly journals and articles as a free of charge. Yeah. So for this current situation, so we offer a remote access. So you can search that you can use this database from your at your home. Yeah.
Do you want to explain what they are, Swayu,
Yeah.
in Burmese?
in Burmese ဟိုလေးဆီယမအခုကဒီခုနပြောလို့ပဲပေါ့နော်ဟို Google Scholar မှာလည်းရှာတယ်ပေါ့ဒါကတော့ free ပေါ့လေအဲ့လို free ရှာတာမျိုးကိုကျမတို့ဒီ American Center ရန်ကုန်နဲ့ Japanese Center Manly မှာကျတော့ဘာလို့လဲဆိုတော့ကျမတို့က page channel တွေပေါ့ပတ်စံပေးပြီးဝယ်ရတယ် database တွေကိုကျမတို့ဝယ်ထားတယ်ပေါ့နော်ဝယ်ထားပြီးတော့ကျမတို့က e-library USA ဆိုပြီးနာမည်ပေးထားတယ်လေအဲ့ database တွေကတကယ်တော့ American Center ရန်ကုန်နဲ့ Japanese Center Manly က member တွေဆိုရင်သုံးလို့ရတယ်ဒါပေမဲ့အခု COVID ကာလကစပြီးတော့ကျမတို့ကဟိုဒီဒါကိုစိတ်ဝင်စားတဲ့ဘယ်သူမှဆိုကျမတို့ရဲ့ member လို့ပဲသတ်မှတ်ပြီးတော့ကျမတို့က free pay သုံးတယ်ပေါ့နော်အရင်တော့ library မှာလာသုံးရတယ်အခုကာလမှာတော့အိမ်ကနေပြီးတော့မှ login နဲ့ password နဲ့ဝင်ပြီးတော့ကိုယ့်အကိုသုံးလို့ရတယ်ပေါ့နော်အဲ့ဒါကိုစိတ်ဝင်စားတဲ့ဆိုရင်ရှေ့တစ်ပတ် Thursday မှာကအဲ့အကြောင်းရှင်းပြပေးမှာပေါ့နော် using e-library USA for academic research ကိုဟိုလာမဲ့ Thursday ပေါ့ July 10 ရက်နေ့ကြာရင်လေဒီလိုအချိန်မှာပဲလုပ်ပေးမယ်တကယ်လို့စိတ်ဝင်စားတဲ့ဆိုရင်ကျမတို့ American Center ရန်ကုန် Facebook page ကနေလည်းကြော်ညာပေးပါမယ်အခုဒီ session မှာဝင် join သလိုပဲ Google Form မှာဖြည့်ပြီးတော့ Thursday ကြာရင်လာ join ပြီးတော့နားထောင်လို့ရပါတယ်ပြီးရင်အဲ့ဒါပြီးရင်အဲ့ database ကိုလည်း free သုံးလို့ရပါတယ်ဟုတ်ဆရာမက PhD လုပ်နေတာဆိုတော့လေဟို research လုပ်နေတာဆိုတော့ဒါအရန်တက်ဖို့ရှိတယ်လေအဲ့ဒါကြောင့်မလို့ပါဟုတ်
ဆရာမရှင်တခုလောက်မေးချင်လို့ပါရှင်ဟုတ်ကျမကကြာလေအခုလောလောဆယ်ကကြာတော့ဟိုပါပေါ့ ACY ရဲ့ member တော့မဟုတ်သေးပါဘူးရှင်ဆိုတော့ခါကြာလေဟုတ်ဆရာမတကယ်လို့ ACY ရဲ့ဟိုပါပေါ့ member ဖြစ်ချင်ကြာလေဘယ်လိုမျိုးလှုပ်ဆောင်ရမှာလဲမေးရှင်
အဲ့ဒါလောလောဆယ်ကတော့ current ကတော့ကျမတို့ကအကုန်လုံး ACY member လို့ပဲဒီ research case session ကိုတက်တဲ့လူမှန်သမျှကိုကျမတို့ ACY member လို့ပဲလက်ခံထားတယ်ပေါ့နော်အခုနောက်ပိုင်းနောက် future မှာဟိုအခြေအနေတွေအားလုံး okay သွားပြီကျမတို့ library ပြန်ဖွင့်ပြီဆိုရင်တော့ရန်ကုန်နဲ့အနီးတစ်ဝိုက်ဆိုရင်တော့ရန်ကုန် American Center ရန်ကုန်မှာပေါ့နော်တကယ်လို့အထက်မှာပြီဆိုရင်လည်း Mandalay က Japanese Center Mandalay မှာလူကိုယ်တိုင်လာပြီးတော့ဟိုဟာတစ်နှစ်လုံးမှာပတ်စံ9000ပါပဲ9000နဲ့လူကိုယ်တိုင်လာပြီးတော့ member လုပ်လို့ရပါတယ် member လည်း one stop service ပဲသူက just only 50 minutes လောက်ပဲကြာတယ်ချက်ချင်းကတ်ကိုထုတ်ပေးမှာ issue လုပ်ပေးမှာပေါ့နော်ဆိုအဲ့ကြရင်တော့ကျမတို့ library မှာအဲ့ဒါ73ပေါ့လောလောဆယ်ကာလမှာတော့ကိုကအိမ်ကနေပြီးတော့ free သုံးလို့ရတာပေါ့နော်
ကျေးဇူးတင်ပါတယ်ရှင်ဆရာမ
ဒီဟိုလေဒီ e-library USA user ဟို name နဲ့ password ကအဲ့ဒီကျမတို့ဒီ research day session ပေါ့နော်ဒီ e-library USA နဲ့ပတ်သက်တဲ့ session ကိုတက်တဲ့အချိန်ကျရင်ကျမတို့ကတခါလဲပေးလိုက်မှာပေါ့နော်ပေးလိုက်ပြီးတော့ကိုအဲ့ဒါကိုမှတ်ထားမယ်မှတ်ထားပြီးတော့သုံးလို့ရတယ်နောက်တစ်ခုကအခုဆရာမပြောလို့ပဲဒီ acdigital@gmail.com ပေါ့နော်အဲ့ရကိုလှမ်းပြီးတော့ email ပို့ပြီးတော့ request လုပ်ပေါ့နော်ကိုနာမည်နဲ့ email address request လုပ်နေကျမတို့ကပြန်ပို့ပေးပါမယ်ဒါပေမဲ့ database သုံးဖို့သုံးနေရတော့ကျမတို့ဒီ session မှာကျမတို့ကရှင်းပြပေးတာဆိုတော့ဒီလိုမျိုး session ကိုနားထောင်လိုက်ရင်တော့ကိုကသုံးရတာပို့ပြီးတော့ကိုယ့်အတွက်ကအဆင်ပြေတာပေါ့နော်ဆိုဟိုဒီတိုင်းဝင်သုံးလဲရတယ်ခုနကလိုပဲ request လုပ်ပြီးသုံးခြင်းလဲရတယ်ဒီ session တွေနားထောင်ပြီးတော့သုံးလဲရပါတယ်ဟုတ် Thank you Marcy
Thank you.
Hello Marcy.
Hello.
Yes. My name is Pantujo. Can I ask you? Can I request you something?
Yes.
Yes. Actually, I'm an English teacher in my native town. I'm currently teaching to some of the students in my native town. But for today, due to the very difficult conditions, there are a few courses available for teachers. So if it is possible, can you arrange like short day 1 or 2 day trainings, like one, if possible, like so it will be a lot helpful for us.
Trainings for teachers or trainings?
Yes. Trainings for how to teach, teaching method and how to approach to teach like that. Can you share like experience? If possible.
Yeah. I will, if you can send an email to that acdigitalevent@gmail.com and put your request in there.
Yes.
We'll get it to the right people because there are some options available through our American English resources. And if we can look at facilitating some of those MOOCs, if we know there's interest in having those MOOCs facilitated beyond sort of what's available sort of generically, we can see what else we can do. But if you would please send us an email and include your email and your location, your town.
Yes. Thank you. I will send you email.
Thank you. Great. Excellent.
Yes, really. Thank you.
Anything else before we close up our Thursday session.
Yeah.
Swayu, do you want to introduce announce next week's, then, or have you already?
Yeah, I announced it in the chat and also. Yeah.
Okay.
ဆိုတော့ရှေ့တစ်ပတ်ခုနပြောသလိုပဲပေါ့နော်ရှေ့တစ်ပတ်တောက်ကြာသိနေကြရင်တော့ကျမတို့ကဒီဟာပေါ့ using ELARUSA for academic research ပေါ့နော်အဲ့ဒါနဲ့ ELARUSA ဘယ်ထဲမှာဒီကျမတို့ ELARUSA database ထဲမှာ academic နဲ့ဆိုင်တဲ့ database သုံးခုအကြောင်းကိုရှင်းပြပေးမှာပေါ့နော်ဘယ်လိုသုံးရမလဲဆိုတော့အဲ့ဒါလေးကိုစိတ်ဝင်စားရင်တော့ရှေ့တစ်ပတ်ကြာသိနေကိုလည်းလို့ပဲ join လို့ရပါတယ်ကျမတို့ဒီ American Center ရန်ကုန် Facebook page ကနေပြီးတော့ပဲ announce လုပ်ပါမယ်နော်
ဟုတ်ကဲ့ကျေးဇူးတင်ပါတယ်
And that session next Thursday will be Burmese language, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Some English, some English, a little bit of English for me, and mostly Burmese from Swayu in the session next week.
ရှေ့တစ်ပတ်ကြာတွင်နေရတော့ကျမကရှင်းပြပေးမှာဆိုတော့လေဟိုဟာပဲဆရာမကတော့ intro ပြောမှာပေါ့နော်ဒါပေမဲ့အစအဆုံးမိဘလောက်ကကျမဗမာလိုပဲရှင်းပြပေးမှာပေါ့နော်ဘာလို့ဆိုတော့ကို audience ကလည်းဗမာတွေပဲဆိုတော့လေအဲ့ဒါလေးလည်းဆရာမကြိုပြောပြထားတာပါ
And I think, aren't you going to make next week's session a little bit longer? It'll be an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So အခုဒီဘက်ကတော့တနာကြီးပေါ့နော်ရှေ့တစ်ပတ် session ကျရင်တော့တနာကြီးခွဲလောက်ကျမတို့လုပ်မယ်လို့စဉ်းစားထားတယ်ဘာဖြစ်လဲဆိုတော့ကိုက database သုံးချောင်းရှင်းပြတော့ရှာပေါင်းရှာနည်းတွေပြောရင်းနဲ့ကျမတို့တနာကြီးကျတော့တိတ်အချိန်ကတိတ်မလောက်တော့လေပြောတော့လေကျမနည်းနည်းလေးမြင်ပြောလိုက်တော့နားထောင်တဲ့လူတွေအဆင်မပြေမှာဆိုလို့ကျမတို့တနာကြီးခွဲလုပ်ဖို့တော့စီစဉ်ထားတယ်အခုလုံး1 to 2မဟုတ်တော့ဘူးပေါ့နော်1 to 2:30တော့ဖြစ်သွားမှာပေါ့နော်အဲ့ဒါလေးကတော့နည်းနည်းအပြောင်းလဲရှိတာပေါ့နော်ဟုတ်
And then Swayu will also talk at a nice normal speed instead of trying to speed talk her way through and everything. And we'll try to include some activities or exercises or something to keep it a little bit more interactive. So we hope you can join us if that's something that's of interest to you as well.
Yeah. ဟိုလေဒီနေ့ Google Scholar မှာကြတော့လေ handout ကတော့ဒီနေ့ကမရှိဘူးပေါ့နော်ဟို Google Advanced Search နဲ့ပတ်သက်ပြီးတော့ handout ကတော့ရှိတယ်တကယ်လို့အဲ့ဒါကိုလိုချင်တယ်ဆိုရင်တော့ကျမကိုအခုဒီ chat ထဲမှာလေကျမကိုပဲ private ပေါ့နော်ဘာလို့လဲဆိုတော့ for your safety ကြောင့်လေဟိုဒီအားလုံးမြင်နေ everyone ကိုမပို့ဘဲနဲ့ကျမဒီ ACY programming နဲ့ကိုပဲ chat ထဲကို email လေးတွေပို့ပေးတော့ကျမပြီးခဲ့တဲ့ဘက်ကပြောသွားတဲ့ Google ဟို Advanced Search နဲ့ပတ်သက်တဲ့ tips လေးတွေတော့ရှိတယ်အဲ့ handout လိုချင်တော့ကျမကိုအခုဒီထဲမှာကျမ chat ထဲကို email လေးပို့ပေးလိုက်ပေါ့နော်ကျမဒီ session ပြီးတဲ့ချိန်ကျရင်ကျမ email ပြန်ပို့ပေးမယ်ဒီနေ့အတွက်ကတော့ Google Scholar ကတော့ handout မရှိပါဘူးရှင်
Excellent. So keep in touch. Stay safe, everyone. And did you get everything in the chat that you needed, Swayu?
Yeah. So Masi, I will stay in the Zoom because I would like to copy some email address. Yeah.
Oh, right from here. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So bye bye.
Bye bye.
Baby လူရတော့ ထွက်ချိန်ထွက်လို့ရတယ်เนาะကျမဒီထဲမှာခဏဖွင့်ပေးထားမယ်ဘာလို့လဲဆိုကျမ email လေးတွေကိုပြန်ကူးမှာမဟုတ်လို့ပေါ့เนาะပြီးတော့မှဒီ session ပြီးမှကျမ email တွေပြန်ပို့ပေးပါမယ်เนาะအားလုံးကျေးဇူးတင်ပါတယ်
အော်ဆရာမဟောလေ AC digital event ကဟိုအကြီးနဲ့ဟာလားအငယ်နဲ့ဟာ
ရတယ် तू ကဟိုဟာလေဟိုမရှိဘူးဟို capital ဖြစ်ဖြစ် small ဖြစ်ဖြစ်လေကျမတို့အဲ့ဒါ limitation မရှိဘူးရှင်ဟိုအဆင်ပြေတာပို့လိုက်ပါဘယ်လိုဖြစ်ဖြစ်လေ AC digital event ဖြစ်သွားရင်ရတယ်เนาะအဓိကခုနဆရာမပြောလို့ပဲကိုရဲ့နေရာ location နဲ့ဟိုဟာလို့ကြီးကြတယ်ရေးပေးလိုက်ပေါ့ဒါမှကျမတို့က sign နဲ့ရှိကိုထပ်ပြီးတော့လွှဲပေးလို့ရပြီเนาะ
ဟုတ်ကဲ့ပါကျေးဇူးပါဆရာမ
ကျေးဇူးတင်ပါတယ်ရှင်
ဟုတ်ကဲ့ပါ
survey form လေးလည်းဖြည့်ထားကြမယ်ထင်ပါတယ်เนาะဟိုကဖြူက please provide me last week PDF file နဲ့ဆိုတော့ email လေးပေးထားလားမသိဘူးအော်ဒီမှာသူ့ဟာရှိပြီ email ရပြီကျမဒီကယူလိုက်မယ်